Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Janice, the Boundaries Coach, and I help women of color embrace the power and the magic of healthy boundaries. Today I'm talking to Angel Rodriguez. Not only is she an expert social worker, she's an innovator, she's a leader, but she's also a great boundary maker. And I'm here to talk to her about how she incorporates boundaries in the many facets of her life. So, as always, stick around and I'll be right back at the end.
I'm an expert social worker and innovator, and my work focuses on supporting organizations that are really seeking transformation. And I really support communities of color. That is my jam. And I'm looking to do that in four different ways, mostly for the most part. I am writing curriculum and I do leadership coaching. I provide grant management services, and then I serve as an expert witness for law firms. My background is in social work. I was in government service in child abuse and neglect for 23 years before I started my own business.
Wow, that's amazing. That your CV is extensive. It's extensive. So, how did boundaries affect your profession, your chosen profession? Not what you
Hmm.
chose, what chose you.
It is definitely what chose me. I think that boundaries really affect everyone's profession, and or at least they should, right?
Right.
I think that it means that I'm able to take care of myself. I'm able to really avoid burning out, which really was a danger in how I was transitioning from government service to being an entrepreneur. I think it means choosing wellness over sickness,
Yes.
um, over not having mental health,
Yes.
in my
Hmm.
life, and not really giving over everything, my entire self over to the work that I chose. And I think giving up your whole self in order to do the work that you love is not necessarily the best choice because you have to be a whole person. And having a career is important to me,
Hmm.
but it
Hmm.
also means that I have to have a full life. And so it means that in order to give my best self to the work that has chosen me, means that I have to have boundaries in how much I give to it and how many hours I spend, whether it's at this desk or
Right.
in the community. I can't do it all the time.
Right.
And if I don't protect my energy, then I end up in this state of mental fog. I can't
Hmm.
think, I can't think clearly. Um,
Right.
and in serving communities or in being in any sort of job, it doesn't really serve anyone, right? To
Right.
have this mental lack of clarity. So, and in the work I was doing before as a leader, I had to model that.
Yeah.
And so I think,
Hmm.
as a leadership coach now, that's something that I talk to the people that I'm working with is you can't just have an expectation of people without modeling that same behavior,
Right. Right.
right?
No, that's very, very important. And I want to talk about how you made that transition from what you did before to what you do now. How did you make that transition?
Well, after 23 years, um, it's quite a bit, especially in public child welfare.
Yes.
And having gone through so many iterations of the job, having been in the field and doing investigations and working in management, leadership, developing programs, all that kind of work, it got to be a lot. And when I started that work, I really didn't think I'd ever do anything different.
Hmm.
I thought that that was just what I would do. It was a
Right.
great government job. It was a great pension, and I worked with some amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
and then, and
and
then.
then, it just started weighing on me.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up with health diagnosis, which is a whole
Mm-hmm.
other story,
Sure.
and then a global pandemic.
Right. Let's not
So,
forget 2020.
and that's when I thought maybe it's time to reconsider what I really thought was never going to change,
Right.
which kind of, I think, goes back to what I originally said about being inflexible, being rigid, and thinking, is there something else I can do with my experience,
Mm.
with the lessons I've learned,
Yes.
with all this all this experience, everything that I've done? Can I do something else?
Mm-hmm.
And having been in um, in the field that I was in, I had had the experience of working with people that were consultants.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw myself as that.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like, this nice job,
Yes.
but I thought that's not me. It's not something
Mm-hmm.
that I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, but what I could do is create something that works for me. I could be of service in a way that works for me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't necessarily think of it in a way that we're talking about,
Yes.
setting
Mm-hmm.
up boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
having that for myself, but really that's what it was.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. I love that too. And something that stuck out to me when you were talking about how you would see these consultants and not necessarily think that's what you would want to do, or like, oh, that's nice, but you never dreamt of that. But
Mhm.
now that you are, I mean, you're more than just a consultant. I mean, seriously. um Having that leadership role even with yourself, and then having to reflect that back to people, is that hard or difficult to do every day? Is that hard to maintain that leadership, even though you already have that in you? Must have that in you already. So was it hard to do that?
As I was starting out, yes,
Mm.
because I wasn't sure what this was going to look like.
Mm.
I didn't know how to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, do I know now? I don't know.
Right. I'm right here with you.
Right? Every day is different,
Yes, it
which
is.
really is kind of the beauty of it.
Yes.
And because I get to create that.
Mm-hmm.
And being an entrepreneur means when I see an issue that a potential client or an actual client brings to me, we can work that out together.
Right.
So I love that about what I'm doing. And we can figure out what some of the potential solutions are and what's the container in which the the organization is working.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's really what I love about the work. There's
Mm-hmm.
flexibility, there's creativity. And so even though there are boundaries within which people have to do what it is that they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
there's flexibility in that.
Yes. Do you have a boundary with your clients?
Oh, sure.
Yes. Okay. Is it easy to have that boundary with them, or is it a little bit difficult because they're your client? Because it's also, before you answer that, it's also the catch-22, because you're that's your client and you want to serve them, but you want to serve them in a way that you can go to bed at night and look at your, and be rested, and know that you've served them well to your ability. Is
Mhm.
that difficult or easy?
That's a tough question.
I know. That's why I asked her.
I know.
And I'm also trying to get pointers. I'm like, is it difficult? Writing things down.
Right. Well, so I think it is a little bit of a mixture of both. I think that because of what I've done in the past, it's a little bit easier for me because as long as I know that I've given my best, my 100%, I can go to bed knowing I've done everything I can do. I can't control what my client brings to the table. As long as I know that I've done everything that I can do, as long as I know that I have served them to the best of my ability, I feel good about that. But I still have to maintain my own boundaries around how much I'm available, how they can contact me, how late, how often, when I'm going to respond. All of those things. And those are things that need to be clarified and communicated up front.
Mhm.
These aren't life and death situations for me anymore.
Right, right.
So I think that's what makes it a little bit easier for me. I was used to dealing with life and death safety decisions for so
Yes.
long
Hmm.
that I had to reevaluate. I'm not dealing with that anymore. It's okay to wait until the next business day.
Right.
It's
Right.
okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
Everything's going to be okay.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it is.
Yes.
It has been.
Yes.
Everything's fine.
The world still will revolve if you
It
don't.
does.
Yes. Little do we know is that sometimes we feel like the world's gonna stop and
Yeah.
stop. And even though sometimes we want it to stop,
Yeah.
but as a business owner, we're like, it's too much stuff to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that's really great because I've talked to other business owners. I know we're skipping around, and of course we'll come back to it'll make sense.
Yeah.
But I talked to other business owners who are like us and who feel that they have to be available for
Hmm.
people, or in the beginning they feel like they have to be available, and there's still people who I know are like, well, I don't. How do you deal with the time constraints? How do you deal with not having to be accessible all the time? And I'm like, well, that's the boundary that you have to have. We don't come with, and because we're not working for somebody else, time's already set up for the structure is already set up for us.
Hmm.
And we as business owners have to set up our own structure. The plus and the
Hmm.
minus is that we have to set it up. But the
Hmm.
plus is like we have to set it up. So it's great. We can decide what time we start and end and emails
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that about that's one of the pluses for me for being an entrepreneur is making my own hours, making my own time, taking so I have enough time to take care of myself and so I can show up for people. My whole thing is
Hmm.
that I want to serve people, serve
Hmm.
my community. So that's the whole point. But I can't do that if I'm running around answering every email at that particular time. So I love that answer. And it's really nice to know other people think like that.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
did you know
definitely.
you needed a boundary? And you feel free to answer it either way, like your professional life or your personal life or whatever you choose. But what did you need you how did you know you needed a specific boundary? Because you couldn't move on without acquiring that particular one.
I think when I started realizing that perfectionism was really weighing heavy on me.
Mm.
And I think as you as I started considering how that was having an effect on my life, I don't know if I really considered it as a boundary, but
Hmm.
as I started reflecting back, saying no wasn't something that was something I liked to do, but that wasn't really serving me.
Right.
Not being
Right.
able to say no isn't always a good thing,
No.
even though saying no is a complete sentence.
There you go. That part.
You don't
Yes.
always have to give an explanation beyond no about why you're saying no.
Hmm.
But if you're coming from a place of, I want to be liked, or, I want this person that I'm saying no to ask me again, to go do something fun or to do
Hmm.
this project that I really want to do or whatever, fill in the blank.
Hmm. Hmm.
But no is what's going to serve me. And saying no is just the best answer for a multitude of reasons.
Hmm. Yes.
That's that's tough. So I think when I think back, wanting to be an outstanding employee,
Hmm.
because that's the top um, ranking when you get an evaluation, right? Outstanding was the
Hmm.
top, and I always
Yes.
wanted to be that.
Mm.
But really, what did that get me?
Yeah. Right. Right.
At the end of the day, what did it matter?
Yes.
It didn't mean I was necessarily serving my team better or kids and families better.
Hmm.
It kind of meant I was serving the people that were managing or leading
Right.
more.
Right.
It was
Uh-huh.
in their service better. So it would have served me better if I had considered that a little bit more.
Yeah. But it makes sense. And I think that you bring up an excellent, excellent point. And so many people are dealing with perfectionism, whether they think so or they're not. But and
Hmm.
also like recognition of their perfection. They want people to say, you did a, like you said, outstanding job.
Hmm.
You did a great job. And who doesn't want praise? I mean, you'd be crazy. And kids want it, dogs want it, animals
Yeah,
want it.
right.
So we're
Yeah.
all so who doesn't want that? But
Hmm.
a lot of people of color, we have a very hard time saying no to the outside world, not only just ourselves, to our communities, but we have a very hard time to say no. Can you speak a little bit about that, about being another woman of color? What you think being a part of a culture that makes it so hard for us to say what we need to say and stand up for ourselves?
I think that it can be maybe how we've grown up and what we've seen in our families, in our communities, and maybe generational trauma, maybe a little bit of martyrism, um,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking that always saying yes is being in service, whether that's, I don't know, maybe it's a religious thing. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's, always giving in service of the church or the temple or whatever,
Right.
however you belong.
Mm-hmm.
And saying no is being selfish. And so you don't love another enough to say yes.
Right.
So I think that if we've grown up with those messages long enough, loudly enough,
Mm-hmm.
we internalize that. So as we grow and then enter the workforce, and then sometimes we might be the only person of color in the room.
Mm-hmm.
the only woman of color in the room.
Yes.
And if we attain a level of leadership sitting at that table, being
Mm-hmm.
that only voice,
Yes.
feeling the weight
Yes.
of
Mm-hmm.
representing, unfair as
Mm-hmm.
it is,
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
very unfair as it is,
Very.
to feel compelled to show our worth when we're much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
When we only
Mm-hmm.
show a fraction of who we are at work,
Right.
because that's what it is. It's
Yes.
work.
Yes. Right. Yes.
And people don't necessarily know who we are outside of that because it's up to us to decide how much we
Yes.
share and with whom. So I think we have a tendency maybe to overextend ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and say yes when we mean no,
Right.
when we're just itching to say no because we don't want to do it.
Right.
You don't want to take on that extra person on your team.
No.
You
Mm-mm.
don't want to stay late again because you have responsibilities in your
Mm-hmm.
life, but you don't want to seem like you're whatever,
Mm-hmm.
not a hard worker,
Right.
ungrateful for the
Right.
promotion, or
Right.
whatever it is.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it gets to be heavy.
Yes, it does get to be heavy. Yeah, and no, it definitely does. Let's talk about our communities, our respective communities. How do you show up for yours without giving so much away?
Well, I think having boundaries obviously is in service of yourself first. So without that, you can't then take it a step further to serve others. For myself, I I believe it's important to support my community and do what I can, but I have to have a limit. Once I start feeling that it's I'm spread too thin, I'm not getting enough rest,
Mm-hmm.
getting cranky,
Mm-hmm. Right.
all those things end
Yes.
up happening.
Right.
Um, I have to start saying no,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
getting more comfortable with the no, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and looking for others to mentor and to build capacity, to bring along and say, how can we do this together? Because
Mhm.
it's not only up to me,
No.
right? I can't
Mm-mm.
do all the work myself. I can't um, pour in only myself.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what I do is I'm on the board of directors of a nonprofit agency
Mm-hmm.
that I love and give as much as I possibly can. But
Right.
that's also in addition to the work
Mm-hmm.
that I do and the fun I like to have
Yes.
and the rest that I need,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's this weaving that I have to do. And I need to make sure that I'm not putting everything else in front of myself.
Yes.
So it's thinking about where are my boundaries? How do these things all fit in to this full life that I want to have so that I can actually give enough to my community?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's
So
lovely.
Not sure that I fully answered that question
No,
in
you did.
retrospect, but
No, you did. I think and I think that's important for me to hear as a woman of color. I think for our audience to be able to hear, for women of color, and we need to hear that it's okay to show up for yourself first,
Mhm,
and so you're able to show up for anybody else but your community as well. Like, you want to be
mhm,
able to, and not feel as if you have to do everything. I think that's also a great thing. Like, you don't have to be everything and anything just for that. But I think a lot of us feel that way. I know Black women feel that way. I know Latinas feel that. I have friends who they feel that way. Like, we have to be everything to everyone because people count on us. Especially we're
mhm,
firstborn Latina,
mhm,
firstborn. I mean,
mhm,
it's or the only girl in the family.
mhm. Or the
We have
oldest girl.
yes,
Got to go to everybody's birthday party
right.
and all the holiday things. It's not
Yes.
possible.
No, it's
Mm-mm.
not. What would you advice you would give to another woman of color about having a boundary?
I mean, I think starting small, if having boundaries is scary for them, to just start small
Mm-hmm.
and lean into what the feeling is. Was it was it difficult? Was it not as scary as you thought
Mm-hmm.
it would be? Um, picking one area of your life, you can't change all of them all at once.
Right.
It's too overwhelming.
It is. It is.
Think about is if it's work, um, what is the most challenging part of that area of your life?
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about what is it that would make the most difference if you set a boundary around. Is it staying late? Setting a timer maybe for an hour before you've got to leave. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're going to do in this last hour? And then get going when it's
Mm-hmm.
time to go.
Yes.
Um, if it's saying no, let's talk about that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to get a coach? Like a boundary coach, like a
Right.
life
A
coach,
leadership coach.
a
Yes.
leadership coach. What area of your life is going to serve you most
Mm-hmm.
to start implementing those boundaries? Is it social media that's really having a negative impact on your life? Do you need to set some boundaries around that and how much time you're spending?
Yes.
Turn off
Mm-hmm.
those notifications. That
Please.
helps a lot.
It does.
Set a timer. What
Yes.
what should you be doing instead? What would be more fun? What are
Mm-hmm.
you missing? Do
Mm-hmm.
you want to read more? Do you want to spend more time outside? So, reduce the time you're on social media, increase something else.
Mm-hmm.
Think about those kinds of things.
Yes.
I think we've gotten a little bit caught up in self-care is like the bubble baths and all of that
Yes.
kind of stuff, and it's really not.
It's self-maintenance. That's not
Yeah,
self-care.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. In that
And
respect, it's
yeah,
it's
and boundaries are
self-maintenance.
self-care.
Yes.
It's
Thank you.
wellness.
Say that for louder for the people in the back. Like, it's so true.
It
It's,
is.
it is.
And you can't expect that everyone's going to support your efforts around
Mm-hmm.
setting
Mm-hmm.
boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's going to like it because
No.
they might feel like they're going to be negatively affected by this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So don't have an expectation that everyone's going to say, "Congratulations, I'm really proud of you for that."
Right.
Because if it negatively affects them, they might stop their feet a little bit.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's
So,
natural. I always tell people it's natural that
yeah,
people are not, if they're benefiting from you not having boundaries, why would they encourage you to have them? Why would they be happy that you now are not always giving them money? Why would they be
right.
happy that you're not, taking them
Yeah.
all the time. So, no, it makes perfect sense. And we have to
Yeah.
be comfortable. And it's also sitting with that uncomfortability,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that and trusting that it's going to get better. It's you're doing this something for you. You're doing it for yourself to make
Mm-hmm.
yourself the self-care happen, and you'll feel better. You will feel better because at the end of the day, it's about you in that respect. It's about you feeling good. At the same time, what are
Yeah.
some of the techniques that you don't mind sharing that you do that help you maintain your boundaries?
Well, I definitely practice gratitude every day,
Mm-hmm.
even if I try to at least say three things that I'm grateful for. And I don't go big. Sometimes it's, grateful for the coffee in my cup.
Yes. Yes, I hear you.
And the kindness that my wife shows me,
Yes.
and the amazing neighbors that I have,
Yes.
just three things that help me stay focused on the joy in my life. Um, and I'm working on my journaling, so I'm not perfect because I'm not doing perfection. Remember, not doing perfection.
No, no perfection.
Right, right. Um, but I do think about my schedule and both personal and professional and figuring out how that's going to work for the week and
Mhm.
not overbooking myself and thinking
Mhm.
about the weekend. What do I want to do this weekend? How much rest do I need? What do I have coming up the following week? Maybe for
Yes.
work. Do I have to travel for work? Then I don't want to do anything the weekend before.
Yes. Hmm.
Does it mean I have to say no to some invitations? Maybe. Are those invitations that, you know, might hurt a little? I don't know, maybe.
Hmm.
But I need to make those decisions because I have to be healthy
Yes.
physically, mentally. I have to be able to live a full life.
Yes.
And it does take practice, and
Yes.
I'm figuring it out as I go along, having these conversations,
Yes.
talking to other entrepreneurs. I'm in different communities of other entrepreneurs, and
Yes.
we talk about, well, what's your struggle? How do you do it? So
Hmm.
I'm trying to be more transparent about the struggles, which
Yes.
isn't something I was doing even, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think being able to talk about what's challenging is a little more freeing, I would say.
What advice would you give to other women of color about boundaries? Just anything you would give to other women.
I would say embrace them, and especially embrace being uncomfortable as you move into figuring out what works and what doesn't, and being okay with that.
Hmm.
Talking to others about what you're struggling with. Because you can't really know that you're in the right space or it's okay unless you're talking to someone else about it. So that's how we figure out, I think, how to move past that initial discomfort is
Hmm.
figuring out I'm in the right space. This is that initial, struggle that other people have gone through, and it's going to be okay. And I'm going to make it to the other side of this if I just stay with it. So I think just embracing it and realizing that focusing on what really matters, and that's you, yourself, just will help you stay grounded in what your purpose is, whatever that purpose is for you. um, and being good to yourself is really what matters most, so that you can then take on whatever challenges come your way.
What a lovely conversation I had with Ms. Rodriguez. I mean, she dropped a lot of gems and just a lot of helpful hints for women of color. I love how open and transparent she was, talking to me, talking to you, giving her tips on what she does, and then informing us that we have to find our own path, which we do. Boundaries are not easy. And I love that she said that it's going to be uncomfortable. It wasn't comfortable for her, and it's going to be uncomfortable for you. But the key is, with all that, is that you know that it's going to be okay. Boundaries are okay. Healthy boundaries are okay. Remember that people benefit from you not having boundaries. When you don't have boundaries, it's the other people that get the praise. The other people who, like she said, when she worked for someone else, they get the praise for your good work. The same goes with boundaries. People benefit from you not having them. And I'm so happy that she said that. It was great talking to Angel because she, like me, is another woman of color. And if you're watching this, you probably are too. But it's great to hear that it's okay not being everything to everyone, as sometimes our community does that to us. And because we feel obligated for whatever reason, all the reasons that she said, and even more, we feel we have to show up, even if we don't feel like it. Information for Angel Rodriguez is down in the description box. All her information, all her links, how you can work with her, how you can get in touch with her. Let her know and let me know how you like this video in the comment section. As always, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't so you won't miss out on other videos and other interviews. And if you want to work with me and acquire healthy boundaries and I can help support you do that, the link's also down in the description box. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.